Welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. So it's just a little past 6:30. Thank you for coming tonight for our kindergarten information night. This is our last of our 3 that we're having this year. And this one is on our homes cluster. But obviously anyone's welcome to come to any of our evenings. So this year we decided we would have kindergarten information nights to give parents some information around kindergarten in general, District 59, and then share information around our programming so that parents know the information as they enter kindergarten to make informed decisions about what you might want for your child. So, my name is Susan Savage. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction in District 59. And previous in District 59, I was actually the principal at Robert Frost Elementary for a number of years in Mount Prospect.
And I'm Joshua Perdomo, the Director for Multilingual Services. It's my first year in the district, starting in July. But I come from a previous district where I worked in the same capacity for over 7 years. Susan will be doing the presentation in English. I'll chime in English on some aspects of it as we get further down, but then I also will be doing it in Spanish to honor the room with English and in Spanish. I promise I speak fast, so we'll get out of here on time. I know it's Mardi Gras, it's Fat Tuesday. We want to enjoy our food, so we'll make sure we get that accomplished today as well.
All right, so our mission in District 59 is preparing students to be successful for life. We have a very diverse district that serves Mount Prospect, Arlington Heights, Des Plaines, Elk Grove, and there are approximately 70 different languages spoken in District 59, as well as nearly 64% of our students live in households with more than one language. And I do want to do a quick little formative poll. How many of you are first-time kindergarten parents in District 59? Okay, good, a good number. And so that's good, that's a good group of us here. That's been our pattern at the other 2 nights as well. Great, so we hope this is informational for you, and we welcome your feedback.
So, en el distrito, nosotros estamos aquí porque tenemos una visión. Somos 15 escuelas, pero la visión lo tenemos igual. Es para ayudar a los estudiantes para su futuro. So, entre el distrito tenemos 70 diferentes lenguajes que los estudiantes hablan y 64% de los estudiantes en nuestro distrito hablan 2 idiomas o más. So, somos una comunidad que es grande, pero todos somos parte de un equipo.
So we are a fairly large district. There are 15 schools in District 59. We have our 3 junior highs, homes being this cluster, and we have a list of all of our schools here. Tonight I would like to introduce you to some of our building leaders, our awesome, fearless building leaders. So we have Michael Wall from Forest View, hello. Lily Smith from Juliet Low, hola. Emily Morris, assistant principal at John Jay, Josh Segura, principal at John Jay, and Andrea Cohn, who is our multilingual facilitator. So she works closely with Mr. Perdomo, working with all of our teachers on our programs.
So, pueden ver que tenemos 15 escuelas en el distrito. Aquí hoy en la noche tenemos algunos de los directores de las escuelas y los subdirectoras. So, tenemos el señor Wall, que es de la escuela Forest View. Tenemos la señora Lily Smith, que es de la escuela de Juliet Low. Tenemos la señora Emily Morris, que es de John Jay, la subdirectora. Tenemos mi gemelo, my twin, Mr. Segura. Hey, I'm the cuter one. He is the principal, el director de John Jay. Y tenemos la coordinadora de los programas multilingüe, la señora Cohn.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about our school team. So often when we think of kindergarten, our first thought is maybe the principal, the classroom teacher. However, we have school teams that involve a group of staff that will be working with your children. So for example, every building in District 59 has a principal, assistant principal, obviously the classroom teacher who will be your primary go-to person and support that you work with every day, specials teachers, student service team, which includes a learning behavior specialist, psychologist, social worker, speech language. We have instructional coaches that work with staff. We have ESL resource in schools where we have the need for that, literacy interventionists, math interventionists, and we have education support staff that work to support students and teachers in their work every day.
So, entre la escuela pueden ver que tenemos un equipo grande. So, en las clases sí tenemos los maestros y eso es una parte bien grande de la escuela, pero también tenemos los directores, los subdirectores, las entrevistas que son de matemáticas, de lectura. Tenemos los que trabajan con lenguaje de ESL, los maestros de lenguaje dual. So, pueden ver que el equipo es bien grande entre la escuela que está ayudando y apoyando a los estudiantes.
So in District 59, we offer a full-day kindergarten program. It has been many years that this has been established in District 59. So the experience from day one will be a full-day experience. We have a whole child approach, which you'll hear a little bit about on the upcoming slides. But rest assured that there's increasing academic challenge and expectations as the year progresses. What you see and hear from what kindergarten looks like is not what we expect from students on day one, but we build in transitional time for them to acclimate to school.
So, el programa de kinder aquí en el distrito es todo el día. So, es un programa de todo el día que estamos aquí. Pueden ver que nosotros estamos trabajando en el estudiante total. So, eso es la academia y también socialmente y emocional, cómo están funcionando entre las escuelas. Y nosotros trabajamos con los estudiantes, sabemos que por muchos de los estudiantes de la primera vez que están en la escuela, por otros ya fueron a la preschool, so nosotros estamos trabajando con ellos para que cuando están en el kinder pueden seguir con los recursos que están aprendiendo para mejorarse cuando terminan el año.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about our kindergarten day at a glance, which of course you will hear much more about from your child's teacher in greater detail. But in general, our children's day starts in the morning with a community circle or social emotional learning time. Come on in. There's no chair. Maybe through here. Come on in. There's a chair here. There you go. Yeah. Okay, thanks. So they'll start with a social emotional learning time, community circle. They'll have a literacy block, which includes reading, writing, foundational skills. And we're going to have an English language development block embedded for those dual language programming starting next year. A math block, math lessons, small group instruction. Specials, which includes PE, library resource, music, art, lunch and recess in the middle of the day, as well as brain and movement breaks that are embedded throughout the day as well. So it seems like a pretty packed day. Believe it or not, they adjust very quickly to this instructional routine.
So, ese es un ejemplo de un horario para los estudiantes de kinder. Empiezan el día con un círculo de comunidad para hablar de sus socialmente y emocional. Tienen el tiempo de lectura. Si están en el programa de lenguaje dual, van a tener lectura en inglés y en español. O si están en el programa de polaco de dual, van a tener esos dos idiomas también. Tenemos el tiempo de matemáticas especiales, que es gimnasio, biblioteca, arte, música, todas esas áreas los tienen los estudiantes. También tienen su recreo y almuerzo durante el día.
So a little bit about our academic overview in terms of what our curriculum looks like in District 59. We are a standards-aligned curriculum where we drive all of our standards and our work around Illinois State Board of Education expectations. Assessment will be something you will experience with your child's entrance to kindergarten. Diagnostic assessment, sort of getting a sense on where they are in general, as well as formative assessment, which will be what your teacher will spend a majority of their time working on with your child and will be the most beneficial for you as well. Math, we have a new curriculum this year in District 59 that has adopted K-8. It is a spiraling curriculum that goes from year to year, vertically aligned, and it is called illustrative math. So far, our results are showing great results from our students' performance using this core resource. Literacy, we have a reading writing workshop time, phonics, phonemic awareness, and we're actually undergoing a literacy review process right now where we're going to begin looking at some new literacy curricular resources next year. Science and social science, we also use curricular resources called STEM scopes and inquiry journeys.
So, esto es lo que les están enseñando. Lo más importante es que todo lo que hacemos entre la escuela son los estándares que están directamente alineados al Estado. Y en cada área tenemos los diferentes recursos que nosotros usamos. So, tenemos para matemáticas, usamos un programa que se llama Illustrative Math. También tenemos la lectura, ciencias y estudios sociales. So, todo lo que están haciendo los estudiantes están alineados a los estándares del Estado.
So I talked a little bit about community circle, beginning of the day, end of the day. That is our social emotional learning time on a daily basis. We're thinking about everyone, including as adults and children, need to be well to do well. We have daily community circles in the morning and SEL lessons on Wednesdays. Those are all focused based on CASEL competencies, which are standards for social emotional learning. And they are K throughout the grades, but really age appropriately focused on things like self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So for example, on Wednesday, it might look like the teacher reading a book, talking about one of those topics. It could be something like sharing with your friends. Something like that would be very typical that you'd see for an SEL lesson in kindergarten. And then conversations around that with lessons built in during the week. So there's themes, and that's the overall structure for SEL in the curricular side.
So, durante la semana los estudiantes están aprendiendo sobre cómo manejar sus emociones y socialmente cómo trabajar en la clase. Cada día tienen el tiempo del círculo de la comunidad donde están hablando sobre esos temas. El miércoles es un día diferente. Ese día sí tienen una lección dedicado específicamente alineado a los estándares del socialmente y emocional para que los estudiantes estén aprendiendo eso también.
So thinking about transition to kindergarten, as I shared before, students will experience a transition as they enter. They're not expected to know everything on day one, but there are some very simple things that families can do to support the transition. Talking about numbers, letters, and shapes. Reading to your child, probably number one most important, engage in learning and building that background knowledge. Conversations around topics, things that you're seeing in your neighborhood, for example. Identifying and locating personal items, little simple things like taking care of your own personal items, putting on your jacket, things like that. And we also have a Ready Rosie program, which is free of charge to anyone who lives in district. All you need to do is put your zip code in. I think we gave the flyer. It looks just like this. I'll just show it for 1 second. This one right here. You can use it on your phone. It has little mini lessons, and they're great educational tools that take just 10 minutes, but they're wonderful preparational for your children.
So, para los estudiantes, para que puedan empezar el kinder, bueno, queremos que ya empiecen a hablar con ellos sobre los números, las letras, los sonidos, cómo escribir sus nombres, todas esas cosas son importantes. También que se pongan a leer historias, no importa en la idioma que están leyendo historias, lo pueden leer en cualquier idioma, pero que se pongan a leer libros. También queremos que tengan conversaciones con sus hijos sobre las escuelas para que puedan empezar a estar listos para eso. También tenemos un papel que les dimos a todos que es un programa en inglés para la lectura. Lo pueden hacer en el teléfono, es gratis si es que viven aquí en el distrito y es algo para empezar con los estudios de lectura.
All right, so parent involvement. There are some really simple ways to get involved and think about it now as you begin to engage in your school communities upon registration. Participating in family nights and events. Schools will be putting on things such as math nights, literacy nights, and our teachers and building leaders love to see families coming out to participate in those events. Communicating with your teachers. Anytime, your teachers are always available to communicate with families. Attending parent-teacher conferences, our goal-setting process in the fall. And getting involved in your PTO, FTO, which is Family and Teacher Organization at Ridge Center. That is a great way to connect with other families, support the school, and get to know even your children's peers at school and their friends, and maybe ones that don't necessarily live in your neighborhood. And as always, always reach out with questions. Our schools are open for any parent communication at any time.
So, gran parte en el beneficio del estudiante es que los padres son parte del equipo de la escuela. So, queremos que cuando puedan ustedes se pongan como voluntarios entre las escuelas, pueden venir a las noches de familia que tenemos entre las escuelas. Todas las escuelas tienen diferentes días que ellos hacen que ustedes pueden venir para reconocer a la escuela y ver lo que están haciendo los estudiantes. Queremos que vengan a las conferencias, los tenemos 2 veces al año. Eso es importante, donde ustedes pueden hablar con los maestros para reconocer cómo están haciendo sus hijos entre la clase. También queremos que si pueden ser parte del PTO, que es una organización de los padres entre las escuelas, eso es algo importante también que pueden ser parte. Y lo más importante es que pueden comunicarse con nosotros cualquier tiempo que quieran, no solo con los maestros, pero con los directores, con nosotros y en la oficina central, porque nosotros estamos todos disponibles para ayudarlos.
One quick discussion around attendance. Attendance and being on time is really important. It might seem difficult at first if your child isn't used to a full day of school, but we really want to get into that routine early with consistency. It maintains academic growth. It allows them to maintain those social connections and not feel awkward coming in late or not being there and missing something. Most important, which is critical for kindergarten. It establishes a routine and gets them in that routine. So keep thinking about that. Sometimes it might seem difficult if they're having a hard time, but maintaining that consistency with school attendance is critical.
Estando en la escuela es bien importante, especialmente en kinder, necesitan estar en la escuela todos los días y en tiempo. So, si tienen una cita de doctor o necesitan ir a las vacaciones, no estamos diciendo que no lo pueden hacer, pero traten lo mejor de hacerlo en tiempos cuando no está la escuela en sección para que los niños puedan estar ahí aprendiendo, porque cada día es bien importante.
There's some logistics that you will encounter at registration, but your main office staff will be the best people to support you in this, which is transportation, health services, food services. There's transportation provided should you live in certain areas. They will let you know when you go to register at school. Health services are always available. We have a nurse at school that can support through the process, obviously, what you might need for immunizations and exams before a student enters kindergarten. And we have food services as well at the school. Make sure that when you go to the school, you check to see if you potentially might be qualifying for free or reduced lunch, because that could impact some of your choices with your food choices for your child.
So, la inscripción de las escuelas ya empezó, era el 24 de febrero. So, todos pueden ir a las escuelas para inscribirse. Ahí es donde van a ver más información sobre el transporte, sobre los servicios de salud y los servicios de comida. También, si es que quieren llenar la aplicación para ver si califican para el costo de almuerzo reducido, lo pueden hacer en ese tiempo también. So, necesitan ir a las escuelas para inscribirse, porque ahí es donde les van a dar toda la información y el paquete que necesitan para llenarlos. Sí tenemos paquetes aquí hoy que ustedes pueden llevárselos para empezar a llenar. There are registration packets here for you available if you want to grab one before you leave, so you can start that process prior to you making that appointment for the school, so that it's faster and easier for you once you get there.
All right, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk a bit broader now about programming in District 59. So when you're entering District 59, there's a couple of program options that parents need to be aware of. We have a dual language program. So our dual language program is available for EL students, but it's also available for students who don't necessarily speak another language at home. We'll get into some detail about what that program looks like, but here in the Holmes cluster, Juliet Lowe has the program for both two ways. So does John Jay as well, for families that might not be EL families. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means, EL and how you get into that program. ESL is English as a Second Language supports for students who speak another language as well, who need services during the day, and our school will be able to provide that as well. So,
En el distrito tenemos dos programas para ayudar a los estudiantes a apoyarlos con el lenguaje. Tenemos el lenguaje dual. El lenguaje dual, la meta es para que los niños salgan bilingüe, que pueden leer, escribir y hablar en los dos idiomas, inglés y español, o inglés en polaco. So, tenemos los dos programas. También tenemos ESL, que es el programa donde los niños están en una clase solamente en inglés, pero están recibiendo servicios de lenguaje para que puedan aprender cómo manejar los dos idiomas, pero el enfoque es en el inglés solamente. Y en las escuelas aquí, John Jay y la escuela de Juliet Lowe son las escuelas que tienen el programa de lenguaje dual.
So EL programs and how students qualify. So let's just stop for 1 second, and we're going to look at our entrance to kindergarten. Kindergarten students are administered an assessment. We use the WIDA, which is based on the state access test model, assessment to determine if they're qualified for English services. Students are identified for that assessment based on the home language survey. This survey is done through the registration process, and then we're able to determine what the students are eligible for if they're an EL student, and they can make decisions whether it might be dual language or EL. And in order to qualify, or in order to be interested, any parent to be interested in a dual program must fill out the interest form, which we have a QR code if you want to do that, like at least get it open tonight. That's up to you, but you must fill that out and get that in within the next month or so we get a sense of what the interest is in our dual programs.
Los estudiantes que tienen más de un idioma que están hablando en la casa necesitan tomar una evaluación. Esa evaluación los va a indicar si necesitan más servicios o no. También ustedes van a si quieren tener la oportunidad de estar en el programa de lenguaje dual, necesitan llenar la forma de interés. La forma de interés lo pueden llenar hoy o lo pueden llenar más adelante, pero se necesita llenar antes del 4 de abril para que puedan estar participando en ese programa. También queremos que sepan que hay una forma donde van a llenar y ahí les van a preguntar si hablan otro idioma. Esa forma es lo que va a indicar si necesitan una evaluación o no. One quick thing that I'm going to share and just make sure that we're all educated on is the home language survey. I mention this because I know this is usually the part where sometimes parents later on down the road will call me or email me and say, I didn't know what I was filling out or I didn't understand it fully, so I want to make sure we take that time. The state of Illinois requires us, it's not a District 59 requirement, it's a state of Illinois requirement that we have to fill out a home language survey. The home language survey has 5 different questions on there. 2 of them are what matters for the state as far as response to evaluation. The questions are, do you speak another language in the household, or does your child speak another language in the household? We cannot modify that term and that language and how it's written because those are state documents. But if you answer yes to any one of those 2 questions, your child is automatically triggered to be screened. Now, I say that not because I want to discourage you from marking yes and truly showing that you have another language, but I'm sharing that because I want to make sure that you understand that that does trigger the screening, which is required by the law. The other piece of that is I also want to make sure we kind of squash that negative connotation of being an EL student does not mean, it's not a negative thing. I know the connotation because of the term that we use in Illinois, which is English learner, does not sound very well, right? Our students do know English. What it is when you're a multilingual learner, which is a term we would hope that the state would start to use, is that they're navigating between 2 languages, and they're always thinking in 2 languages. The goal of our programs is to be able to support students, whether it's in dual language or in ESL, but to support students in how to navigate and using 2 languages so that they're not getting confused in their academics as they're growing up. I'm bilingual myself, and you can't ask me to just shut off my Spanish so I can only think in English. I'm consistently thinking in 2 languages because that's how my brain works. My linguistic repertoire is always thinking in 2. So it's not a negative thing. There's a lot of benefits that can support students who are EL, and you have options of either doing it through a bilingual lens, through dual language, or English only. But I do want to make sure that families understand that's a key. The other piece to this is just being realistic when you're filling it out. And if you have a family member that's living with you, we have this a lot of times. Grandma's living with us for 2 months, our cousin's living with us for a few months, and they speak another language. You've marked yes. Now they're triggered a screening, and now they've qualified for services. You don't want to mark yes for that. This is what it is. It's holistically, is there another language spoken in the household? Okay, not periodically. The other piece to this is we ask and encourage parents, don't try to do the reverse because you want to get into dual language. So you say you speak another language because you watch Dora the Explorer. Okay? I love that you're interested in dual language, and I promise you we'll give you those opportunities, but lying on the home language survey doesn't do us any services either. So we want to be as open and honest as possible, but I share that because many families get confused and they get angry when they say, well, why is my child an English learner? And I hate that term too, but that's a term that the state has identified and utilized. So I just want to make sure we emphasize that because everyone here will have to fill that out before you start kindergarten.
All right, so dual language. We have dual language in District 59. So in looking at what our community entails, the demographics, we've had shifts over the years. We have many, many students that are emerging bilinguals, multilinguals, that will benefit from this type of a program, and therefore there's opportunities for their peers to really be enriched by this experience as well. The optimal window for experiencing and becoming a really strong bilingual is entering academically in kindergarten into that program. And the research shows that there continues to be great cognitive benefits to that multilingual brain development over time.
Before I do it in Spanish, I know you might be thinking, well, why are they talking about dual language right now? I might not be interested. The reason why we do it right now, it's not a sales pitch. I promise you I don't make commission if you go into it. It's not per pupil. But we do this because kindergarten is the year that you can enter dual language. If you choose not to enter in kindergarten, you cannot enter later on. And again, many families unfortunately did not know that we had programs or that our programs are available such as that. And then in 2nd grade, they'll call and say, I just found out you had dual language. Can we join dual language? The answer is no. It starts in kindergarten because it's the optimal year to really build on those foundational skills and to start to learn that academic language. It's Spanish and English, the academic language of Spanish and English, not just the social language. Sometimes we get confused and say, well, I can teach them Spanish at home, and that's great, and I'm sure many of you possibly can, but are you teaching them the academic language, the grammar that goes with it, the linguistic repertoires, the transfer of language, all of those pieces with it as well. So that's why we take the time to educate all of our families now, so that later on you can't call me and say, Joshua, you'd never told me about dual language. Because I'm going to go back to the recording and say, remember when I was wearing this lucky green shirt and I looked like a little leprechaun? I told you about dual language, okay? It's okay, you can laugh at me. I laugh at myself all the time. Lo tenemos porque sabemos que el lenguaje dual es un programa importante para los estudiantes. Ahorita es el tiempo para que los estudiantes puedan aprender una segunda idioma. So, esa es la razón que lo tenemos. Sabemos que hay muchos estudios afuera de aquí enseñando que el lenguaje dual es un programa que trabaja bien, no solamente para los estudiantes que tienen otro idioma, pero también para los estudiantes que quieran aprender español. So, es un programa muy bueno para los dos.
So what does the program look like? It's an 80-20 model, which is the research-based and most approved model for a dual language program, which means that, seems counterintuitive, but your child, if they were not a Spanish speaker, for example, would be spending 80% of their day in Spanish with 20% of their day in English, with a dedicated time developed for metalinguistic transfer so that they're learning the differences and the similarities between the languages. So they're developing both at the same time with an emphasis on the target language. We also have a dual language leadership team in District 59 that includes administration, teachers, and we work as a team to develop action plans to continuously improve the program. Right now we're currently in an action planning phase to look at making some improvements based on our dual language audit. I talked about bridging and extensions. That is the work that the teachers are trained to do to ensure that students are developing proficiency in academic grade level content in both languages.
So nosotros tenemos el modelo del lenguaje dual de 80-20. 80% del día lo estamos enseñando en español, 20% es en inglés. Ese 20% de inglés es el tiempo de lectura en inglés, porque como leemos y escribimos y hablamos en inglés es diferente en español. So esa es la razón que tenemos ese motivo. Tenemos un equipo de líderes que están enfocados en mejorar el programa de lenguaje dual y siempre tenemos los puentes y las secciones para aprender esos idiomas. The one thing I want to highlight is, as Susan had mentioned about transferring and dual language, that's the goal. We don't translate, we transfer language. Many of us took another language in high school, and many of us can't speak it anymore because all we learned in high school was to conjugate a verb, okay? And we learned how to do that all the time. Language is learned through oracy before literacy. As children, we learn to listen and speak before we learn to read and to write. That's that same philosophy in dual language. That's why 80% of the day is in Spanish, because it's that stage where they have to hear and be immersed in the language so that they can learn to listen to it, speak it, and then they can become readers and writers. The goal of dual language is bilingualism, biliteracy, and biculturalism. It's to become fluent in both languages, not just one, because we know that opens up pathways for others.
So this is a visual that shows what the model looks like. 80-20 is how it begins, and then over time, the language allocation becomes more 50-50 as the years progress through school. In the middle school, there's more English than there is Spanish, and we're continuing to work with our middle schools on really enriching that program as we learn, as our kids go through the program, and they have done so already.
So esto solamente es un modelo para enseñarles el 80-20 que estábamos hablando. 80% empieza en kinder hasta que pueden ver que cuando llegan al quinto grado ya es un 50-50, so mitad del día en inglés, mitad del día en español.
So we've talked about this a little bit already, but we talked about how that 80-20 model is the effective model for dual, and it is just a sort of a visual graph that shows students, EL students now we're talking about, and how their progression is superior when they are in that dual model as opposed to some other models of language development.
So eso es solo una gráfica enseñando que por qué nosotros estamos usando el modelo del lenguaje dual, porque cuando miramos los estudios podemos ver que los estudiantes que están en el lenguaje dual en promedio hacen mejor que los estudiantes que no están en un programa de lenguaje dual y que hablan 2 idiomas o más.
So once again, what are the program goals? To develop academic content and linguistic competence in both English and Spanish. Bilingual, biliterate, bicultural, with grade level academic achievement. And really utilize that higher level cognitive skills in both languages. And it creates a classroom environment that promotes linguistic and cultural equality. I do want to mention something I didn't mention earlier, which is, you're probably not thinking about high school right now, you're entering kindergarten, but children who experience that bilingual, bicultural trajectory have an opportunity in high school to take the seal of biliteracy. The seal of biliteracy, when they take that in high school, creates opportunities at university as well as career and economic advantages having that seal of biliteracy. And you say again, it's sort of it also is like what it is about
the seal of biliteracy is really the same exact assessment that a teacher that wants to teach a world language would have to take in order to show proficiency. So students actually have the opportunity that in 8th grade or their senior year to graduate or leave with that stamp and seal of approval from the state of Illinois, which qualifies them for college credit, removes the world language criteria in universities. They no longer have to take that because they surpassed that, and they technically have the degree to teach that language. Now, you still need your teaching degree and all of that, but they have that one step closer to that piece. So it gets you to that seal of biliteracy.
So we've talked about this a little bit. Selection, open to any family in District 59 who's interested in dual programming. The only thing is that you would have to express interest on the interest form at this time. And so really we'd like to get that in by we're looking at April 4th. That allows us to look at how we can section and support and create the best balances of classrooms across all of our sites that have the dual language program.
So aquí la selección es todas las familias que quieren ser parte del programa tienen la oportunidad, pero necesitan llenar la forma de interés. Si no tenemos la forma de interés, no sabemos que están interesados y después no los podemos poner en el programa. Eso es importante. Y si no están seguros, es mejor que lo llenen y lo firman, porque es mejor que lo tengan el interés y después me dicen que no lo quieren hacer. The other piece of this is if you're not sure, and it's a big decision, it's the educational path for your child, it's always best to fill out the interest form now just so that we have your name on file so we can at least talk you through the process, rather than you not filling it out and then it's too late. You could always back out. Okay, we're not having you sign any legal documents saying that you have to stay. We want you to stay committed, but at the end of the day, it's a choice that you have to make for your family, and it's your educational decision that we will honor and respect. But at least submit the interest form if you're considering it, so we can further give you more information.
So in terms of parent responsibilities, as Mr. Perdomo just discussed, it really is commitment to the program so that you're staying the course, that your child reaps the benefit, because it is more challenging in kindergarten and 1st grade, and then it starts to ease up as the years go on, and that's when the benefits truly, you'll see the results. So we really want parents to think that long haul approach when approaching a dual language program.
So nosotros lo que queremos de los padres es un compromiso, que van a ser dedicados a la programa, que van a apoyar a sus estudiantes en aprender los 2 idiomas, que van a motivar a sus estudiantes para que puedan seguir mejorando, pero queremos que ustedes sean parte de ese equipo.
So, he talks fast, I talk fast. We did a bilingual presentation. We're right around a good time here, but we are 7:15, so we're wrapping up. Registration information. Registration is open. It opened on the 24th. So registration packets are available here if you don't have one yet. You simply need to go to your home school to register there, or contact them to make an appointment. There's required documents. I won't read them to you, but there's Category 1, Category 2. If you would like to see the list of those, we have packets available for you before you leave, so you know what you need to bring to the schools when you register.
And Maz and Nancy in the front have the dual language interest form that you can fill out if you're interested. Ms. Cohn has some that she can pass out, so does Ms. Morris. So you can start filling those out. Again, if it's something you're considering, do that. We also have kindergarten takeaways for the children. Please grab one on your way out. We appreciate you coming out. We told you we would end on time. We thank you for your time. This is the first of many hopeful meetings that you'll have, and they're a lot more fun than we are, I promise. So if you can handle this, you can handle them.
If you have any questions, we'll be here. If you want to say hello to any of the building leaders, they'll be here as well. So we're done for tonight. Feel free to chat, fill out a form, or come ask questions. Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.